Doug taught me everything. Douglas Solian, he had the shop for 35 years and was really good bender. And I came and he was probably done teaching and some reason was willing to teach one more time, and I got lucky. The shop that we're in now has a pretty good history. It's been here for 35 years and its roots are in Mr. Rudd.
The neon signs you see in the Richmond area were made by one man. Lewis Rudd has been doing it for 52 years.
Who started the neon division at Tally Neon in probably the 30s or 40s. The guy said, I've heard about this neon thing, do you want to get into this? And he was like, oh.
I started to work with sign company to become a sign painter, and this came along and they talked me into trying my hand at it, and I did, and just stuck with it.
Sure, I'll do it, but like I'm done painting signs. Like if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna just do this. So he pretty much taught himself.
I didn't have anyone to teach me when I started doing this. See, Tally went in business and he knew nothing about it, and neither did I, and just learned by trial and error, and that's a pretty hard way to learn.
And a lot of the signs that you see around Richmond are still Mr. Rudd signs. And then probably in the 80s when Doug started, there were 6 shops working. So there's lots of other neon names. And then by the time I came, or probably even early 2000s, it was pretty much just Doug, I think. He was refinishing mirrors at first, and then he was kind of collecting antiques and different things. He had bought a couple pieces of neon, and he was living upstairs. He hung a couple pieces up there, and someone walked by, said, hey, are those for sale? And the salesman that he was like, well, sure. He said, how much? And he looked at the transformer, and it said 75, which actually meant like 7.5, like that was the type of transformer, but he saw the 75 and was like, $75. And so he sold that, and then he was like, I think I should get more of this. So then he went somewhere who had a lot of neon and was like, okay, what can you give me? And with the trade, I think he traded him a piece of furniture with a mirror in it for a couple more pieces of neon, and then just kind of kept selling that and was taking repairs and orders to someone else, I think. And then eventually he was like, well, I think I could do this myself. Met Mr. Rudd, and then Mr. Rudd was like, you got to get out of this mirror thing. Like, just do the neon.
Making neon signs is not a simple process. Rudd starts with a set of blueprints, makes a pattern, heats and forms the glass, then creates a vacuum for the gases that will light the neon tubes. Right now, he's working on a set of 8-foot-high letters for Tallheimers. This is part of the H. A big job like this one is taking 2 weeks, but Rudd says it can take anywhere from 45 minutes to a few days to make most neon signs. This familiar one on Broad Street took him almost 2 days. And although he follows blueprints and patterns, in every sign, there is a little of Lewis Rudd.
It was 2 years ago in August, and actually 2 years ago in June, I came for a week, and I met Doug, and he was just this fascinating person who has poured his heart and life into neon, and he was a really good bender, knew the craft really well, and he just taught me everything he could for as long as he could, and that was really special and pretty much the trajectory of my career in general. So that's really important to me to mention. He had COPD when I met him. So he was pretty frail. Like he would come in every day, but it was kind of like he'd sit, and if I had a question, I'd come kind of get him, and sometimes he'd be able to come and help and show me. But a lot of it was kind of like he'd talk me through something and then he'd have to rest. So that was, yeah. So I guess during the winters, a lot of times he'd get real worn down and pretty sick. And he just, had gone into the hospital and passed away.
Mr. Rudd worked up until he couldn't lift his hands. I mean, he worked up until he literally was incapacitated.
As long as people want me to work for them, I'll keep on working, as long as I'm able to give them an honest day's work.
And that's kind of how I see myself. I was in the room when the doctor told him he had terminal cancer. And like most people, he couldn't understand that it meant his life was at the end. But when he got sick, my wife and I took care of him. We were there every day, every night. I mean, he got so he would not drink the coffee at the hospital or the nursing home. He would have to have my wife brew coffee because he liked her coffee. So it was just a spark plug or a beacon in the sky that I said, hey, this is the way he wanted me to do it. And when I make something, even today, I look at it, if it doesn't look right, I'll make it over. Mr. Rudd told me, he said, Doug, it's kind of like opening a spigot. At first, it'll be just a little trickle. But if you stay with it, if you really have that burning desire to stay with it and stick with it, eventually, it'll be a gusher. And it did. It became a very big gush.
I enjoy doing it, that's one thing. If I didn't, I guess I would be in a rocking chair maybe. But I enjoy doing glass work. And that's why I keep on doing it.
When I got started, my mentor always said, Doug, I'm helping you, and I've helped several other people in my lifetime. He says, your obligation is to help someone along also, to keep the fires going, to keep the interest there, and make sure that neon doesn't die out, doesn't become a lost art.
He was a hilarious person, really good storyteller, an incredible salesperson, and that's not really my disposition. So he was somehow kind of pulled that out of me. But yeah, he taught me how to, so while I was here, he was really good about immediately pretty much I had to go talk to the customers, and then he would kind of be like, oh, this is how I kind of would have haggled or something like that. And he had this brilliant rental process too that he would do, and he would rent signs to different restaurants, and he'd say $1 a day. And then so he'd either get to go eat at the restaurant, or he'd have an open sign up for $30 a month. And just the ingenuity in his sales mind was really cool to learn and see. And then we talked about bending, but also just I did not grow up here. And I didn't know anyone. And we would go out on different jobs, change a transformer, install a sign, and then he'd drive me around and kind of show me the town and tell me he was from Hopewell. So he was in Richmond for a really long time. So he knew all the ins and outs, had great stories, and would take me to Hollywood Cemetery or different places. And then when we start to head back, he would just be like, that concludes the tour.
What do you think he would say now?
I think he'd be pretty happy. But there's still so much to learn. So I think he would just say, keep going.